The first thing we're going to talk about is local web authentication. LWA, local web authentication. So who is going to provide this local web authentication? Well, it's going to be our wireless LAN controller. Our wireless LAN controller is going to be set up to provide local web authentication. This is going to be a basic splash screen when you log in. Many of you have seen something very similar to this when you go to a hotel. Welcome to XYZ Hotel. Sign in. This is based on, very importantly, the SSID is mapped to the guest VLAN on our wireless LAN controller. Wireless LAN controller is doing the job here, our local wireless LAN controller. And last but not least, our user provisioning is also taken care of by our wireless LAN controller. That is the time of the connection allowed. That is the users of this account, the users, the time, and the SSID, which is going to provide the what? VLAN, are all associated and defined by the local wireless LAN controller. This is local wireless authentication. So the guest access comes in through here. Our wireless AP is delivered directly to our wireless LAN controller. Once it's given to the wireless LAN controller, we are placed on a VLAN that we have defined for guest access. We have defined guest access. It will traverse. This is when it's dropped off to our wired network and will end up going to whatever you give access to your guests. But it will not, in many cases, unless you really want to, have access to corporate resources, corporate servers, or corporate server racks. It's like when you go to the hotel, you can traverse their network, right? But you don't have access to all their servers. You don't have access to your room information. Well, hopefully you don't. But you do have access to their network. You are just confined to the VLAN. So our local web authentication, as we said, will have a splash page. When somebody tries to connect, it'll redirect you, right? It'll be a portal page. Now, this is the default portal page here. You can see that Cisco is prominently configured right here, and you can see Cisco all over the place. But we can customize portal pages to look like anything we want them to. We can even download pages we create into the wireless LAN controller using a TFTP server or some other type of transfer server to get that information onto our wireless LAN controller. We can also redirect to an external portal page that we have set up in advance. This could have acknowledgement of terms and conditions, things of that nature. So we're not stuck with the regular splash page, but in small offices, the splash page works just fine. Now, we don't have to be stuck with the Cisco logo. We can get rid of that Cisco logo. We can add a banner. We can change the information here to this basic splash page. So we're not stuck with it, like I said. And we can enter our own pages and use an external portal page as well. Now, these local wireless LAN authentications, they can be done by a network administrator, right? But in these small offices, these small businesses that would deploy this type of infrastructure, this very small local web authentication, do we want our network admin to be doing this work? Do I want to call the network admin if I have a friend coming in for lunch and he might need access? I need you to set up a guest user account for him. That doesn't seem like a good trouble ticket. We can use what's known as lobby ambassadors. Now, lobby ambassadors have a local management user account with permission to create and use guest users. Now, that's it. That's all they're allowed to do. So very narrow scope of administrative functions. But what it does is your head network official doesn't have to go on and create guest user accounts. We can offload that to our lobby ambassador. And this takes the weight of work off our network administrator. And we can create these lobby ambassadors per wireless LAN controller. So if I give Sharon access to lobby ambassador, on a wireless LAN controller and she moves to a different branch, maybe down in Texas or somewhere else, she will not have access. She will not be able to use her lobby ambassador status because this is per wireless LAN controller. Once she leaves that domain of wireless LAN controller, her credentials are no longer useful. And once again, lobby ambassador only has the power to create user accounts for guest users. So very, very limited in scope. Great if you have front desk or maybe even in a highly secure environment where you allow guest users. I don't know why you would, but hey, if you do, when they check in and sign in, even security officials could give those credentials out as lobby ambassadors.